West Dakota Fox News at 9. A ticking time bomb expected to erupt any minute in the Philippines. Plus, Dickinson Police Department welcomes their newest colleague. But first, autonomous transportation in Bismarck could be coming sooner than you think.
This is West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. The wheels are in motion to bring self-driving buses to the streets of Bismarck. Reporter Megan Hoffman shows us the plan.
Bismarck City engineer Gabe Schell has been working on the concept for a while now. He's looking to introduce what could be the first self-driving vehicle in the state of North Dakota. Buses rumble down the streets of Bismarck every day. For now, all of them have human drivers, but that could soon be changing, and one Bismarck resident says she's on board.
I think it's a great concept. I think it's fascinating technologically. It might be difficult for us to kind of get beyond the idea of not having a driver in the car, but I'd be willing to give it a try, maybe with a little bit of fear and trepidation.
The city's engineering department is looking at getting a self-driving or autonomous bus. It would run a route between downtown and the capital. Safety is one of the top concerns, but city engineer Gabe Schell says they won't put anything on the streets that they don't believe and has been proven to be safe.
There's no guarantee that there's not going to be a crash, but sometimes those crashes are the person who's driving the car hits the autonomous vehicle. So it might get a bad rap from the fact that the autonomous vehicle's in a crash, but it's had nothing to do with that particular vehicle.
Schell is hoping to get funding for the project, expected to cost about $80,000 from the North Dakota Department of Transportation. Schell is proposing to have the bus on a trial run from March to October of 2019.
Thanks, Megan. Meantime, a new study is showing that people are less apprehensive of riding in self-driving cars. AAA says 37% of people wouldn't mind being driven by an autonomous vehicle. While that doesn't sound like a lot, last year it was only at 22%. The group's most trusting of the vehicles, males and millennials. Let's toss it over to our favorite male millennial, meteorologist Henry Blakes.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Today, Morris Brickle Hicks, the man convicted of murder last month, filed an appeal. Brickle Hicks was found guilty of killing Misty Kofelt behind Runnings Farm and Fleet in Bismarck in 2016, and he's not the only one seeking relief from the state Supreme Court. A Minot man convicted of murdering his ex-wife will ask the Supreme Court next month to allow him to have contact with his two children. Richie Wilder is serving life in prison for killing Angela Wilder. He's been on probation from contacting his 6- and 12-year-old children who are living out of the state with their maternal grandmother. A Fargo woman will spend the next 2 years in prison stemming from a bizarre traffic accident. Police say Alicia Johnson was driving with 33-year-old Joshua Fonder riding on the hood of her car. He fell off and hit his head and died a week later. Johnson made a deal to plead guilty to reckless endangerment and leaving the scene of an accident involving death. Because of that plea, prosecutors dropped a manslaughter charge. In health news, the state is pushing a new initiative to get more mothers to breastfeed. It's part of a large block health grant from the CDC. This year, North Dakota's Department of Health received more than $390,000 to support the state health priorities, gaps in public health services, and to respond to emerging issues.
This money is important to help us, like I mentioned, build capacity, but it's also an opportunity for us to better fund our strategic state health priorities. And
the plan of what the money will be used for will be submitted to the CDC for approval on Monday. You can hear more about those proposals later. In December, the Bismarck Public School Board decided they would shift to a coherent governance model. The board began training this week. The new model will hold the administration accountable for achievement standards. It will also eliminate confusion to the roles and responsibilities for staff. The BPS board consulted with similar districts like West Fargo, who have already adopted this model.
So they've done their due diligence. They've read the books. They've interviewed other board members and superintendents in adjacent districts. They've talked to us. We've had a couple video conference calls with them. And now what we do is take template language and they customize it to Bismarck.
The next training session will focus on identifying results for student achievement. In political news, State Public Service Commissioner Randy Christman announcing his plan to run for re-election. In the announcement, Christman says he is honored to represent the people of North Dakota as their public service commissioner and that he is gratified by the trust the voters have placed in him to serve the public's best interest.
Serving the public means making sure that consumers get quality service at the best possible prices from regulated monopoly companies, because they don't have a choice where to go for those services.
Christman has served as PSC commissioner since 2012 and is currently its chairperson. Well, it's looking like the state is going to get another gas processing plant. The announcement comes as North Dakota hustles to keep up with record volumes of natural gas capture. Hess Midstream Partners and Targa Resources will build the $150 million plant near Watford City. It will be called the Little Missouri 4 plant and will process 200 million cubic feet a day. Since it's part of an already existing facility, it should be ready to go before the end of the year. Pipeline Authority Director Justin Kursgaard says all 4 new plants in the works should keep pace with the expected oil production for the next 2 years. A vacant storefront in downtown Bismarck is hoping for some new life thanks to a new tax incentive. I'm talking about the Renaissance Zone program. Because of it, a new restaurant is planned for 101 North 5th Street, formerly One World Imports.
And it all generates new investment. You know, every new business, you know, draws more people, and that draws more investment from there. So it's a positive cycle that we're hoping that this can help spur.
Each property in downtown Bismarck is eligible to be a part of the program once. The goal of the Renaissance Zone program is to draw more people into downtown Bismarck. North Dakota has joined a dozen other states in a Supreme Court case dealing with the treatment of animals. North Dakota is fighting protections for animals put in place by California and Massachusetts. The California law requires that any eggs sold from their hens must be from specific space requirements in their cages. Massachusetts voters passed a ballot measure banning the sale of pork, veal, and eggs produced under confinement. In each case, producers need to comply or will not be allowed to sell their goods. The state involved in the lawsuits claims such laws violate the U.S. Constitution Interstate Commerce Clause and is preempted by federal law. The Dickinson Police Department just welcomed their newest agent. He'll be leading the pack in paw enforcement. Andrew Horn shows us. Local authorities in the Philippines say an active volcano could result in a violent eruption any day now. Mount Mayon has been active for about 2 weeks, but scientists say it now appears to be swelling with magma. Thousands of people are staying in emergency shelters, and officials are worried the eruption, which could last for months, might affect everything from education and health to the entire economy of the region. The volcano has erupted about 50 times in the last 500 years, but the area is still a popular tourist site. The Seine River overflowed its banks in Paris today, with levels predicted to get even higher over the weekend. On Tuesday, it was at 16 feet, and it's expected to rise another 4 feet in the coming days. Fortunately, the heavy rains that caused the initial flooding have subsided. All-day fire crews in Dallas battled a massive apartment complex blaze. Flames engulfed the entire top floor of the building. So far, no injuries have been reported. Investigators are on scene to pinpoint where and how this fire started. In Indiana, a suspect crossed state lines on a wild police chase that lasted over an hour. Authorities say this white truck was reported stolen. When they tried to stop him, the driver took off. They eventually got him to stop in a suburb of Chicago. A bank robber standoff today in Michigan. This is inside the bank in Canton. Police say a robber entered the bank and barricaded himself inside with hostages. The whole thing lasted 4 hours. Eventually, the hostages were released and the robber was arrested. And a shocking shootout at a busy Florida traffic light. Caught on camera. Dash cams captured the moment a silver Lexus approached a stoplight and opened fire on this gold Toyota. The passenger of the Toyota got out and returned fire. The two suspects exchanging around 10 to 12 rounds. Police say they've made an arrest in connection to the shooting, but the other suspect is still at large. Also in Florida, the NTSB is investigating a plane crash that happened a few hours ago. This is at Florida Keys Marathon International. Witnesses say the single-engine plane was attempting to take off when a gust of wind caught them, blowing them off the runway. 2 passengers and the pilot were airlifted to Miami to be treated for their injuries. A mother in Louisiana is demanding answers after her daughter mysteriously fell overboard on a Carnival cruise. The accident happened Sunday in Mexico. The Mexican Navy is no longer assisting in the search and rescue operations, but other authorities are still conducting searches by sea and by air. 2 people are dead after a commuter trail jumped the rails this morning in northern Italy. This was the scene outside Milan. Rescue crews had to climb through the cars to help passengers escape the accident. The cause of the crash is still unclear. And Hyundai is recalling 88,000 cars in the U.S. over a potential fire risk. The recall covers certain 2006 Sonatas, 2006 through 2011 Azera models are also affected. Officials say an electrical shortage in the anti-lock brake system could cause the engine compartment fires. American Airlines and Delta are calling a truce to help prevent passengers from getting stranded. The air carriers have resumed an agreement that allows passengers to rebook on either plane during travel disruptions. The decision comes after a series of incidents across the country, which included computer failures, power outages, and bad weather. And the countdown to kickoff is on, and today the Twin Cities unveiled their new Ice Palace. This is in St. Paul. Fans can come chill out at the 2-story sculpture. The Super Bowl will be Sunday, February 4th on our sister station, KFYR TV. It's a pretty impressive ice sculpture there.
Yeah, most definitely. Things are getting a little bit colder as we continue to the week.
Well, he's not exactly the horse whisperer. New video tonight shows a deputy in Florida trying to corral a runaway horse. The escaped equine didn't seem to care too much for his efforts, instead choosing to put the neigh in neighborhood. Eventually they were able to lasso the horse and return him to his owner. A baby seal is back in open water tonight after recovering from severe facial wounds and pneumonia. Marine biologists from Charleston, Rhode Island were able to nurse him back to health and released him a few hours ago. Some crazy video to show you tonight. The skies above Israel are turning black with thick migrations of birds. This is murmuration. That's the technical term for the shifting shapes that look like vast dancing clouds created by the birds. These are migrating starlings. They say that by the changing movements and shifting collective shape, the birds can confuse their would-be attackers. Speaking of migration, Olympic athletes are now making their way to South Korea. The South Korean Olympic Village is ready for athletes ahead of the upcoming Pyeongchang Games. The Athletes Village can hold 2,400 people. The country is hosting its first Winter Olympics with more than 90 countries. Henry, what would be your Olympic sport if you had to do the Winter Olympics?
One thing I've always wanted to do is ice skate. Never done that, so I'd like to give it a try. How about you?
I would pay so much money to see you ice skate.
I'd like to see that.
I mean, it's a winter sport driving in Bismarck, so I think I would at least medal in that.
Yep, that is true. Hey, we're looking at mostly cloudy sky for tomorrow. Lows, not all that bad. The clouds are going to help keep us somewhat on the mild side, so we'll be waking up to a Friday morning in the 20s. The wind, however, is going to be a little breezy at times. Be mindful of that. South wind and temperatures, once again, near or above freezing. Tomorrow, yeah, it's going to be our last warm day of this week. Colder over the weekend, roller coastering up and down even next week. So just be prepared.
All right, Henry and I will see you on the rink, and we'll see you tomorrow.